Okay. Another precursor for this era before I really get into more of the nitty-gritty with Chester. Um, so I mentioned before that my mother was on disability. And how that worked was she got paid for the three of us before Steve turned 18. And then that money moved over to the two of us when B turned 18. I'm 17 and I'm trying to move out. And it's then that my mother and B demand that I pay them to move out so they could move. Because she wouldn't be getting the disability check from me. Um, and when I refused, um, they demanded that they just took my stuff. I'm just gonna say it for what it is. They took my stuff to sell. Um, I have a side note for that because one of the things that they wanted to take was a limited edition Legend of Zelda DSi, which, if you remember back then, was all the rave. However, I didn't like The Legend of Zelda. And so I mentioned these grand gestures during holidays, and I remember just like feeling so guilty and disappointed because B had really wanted that DSi, and my mother got them for both of us. And so that sucked because she didn't even know me well enough to know that I wouldn't have liked that gift. And now I'm sitting with this guilt of knowing that because at this time I had a very defined idea of the way that we lived life and being poor. And I remember just feeling so guilty and frustrated that she would buy this DSi for me because, like, I wasn't even playing the DS anymore. I was like I was almost an adult. Uh, and I especially didn't like The Legend of Zelda. Um, so it's not like that really hurt, but it's the principle of it all, the fact that they wanted to take it and sell it. Eventually, I asked Steve about it, and once he found out, he got involved. And he made that situation go away. So it's remembering where I'm at. Oh, right, right, right. The paying to move out. Yes. That's a wild concept to me. Um, I don't remember where I was going with the first point. I think I actually covered the first point, so I'm just gonna move on. So, um, I mentioned that I gave up my identity for this man, and I don't think he was a bad person. He was just grossly not right for me. And my dad, um, finding this other woman and leaving my mother and never having loved her, that information really kind of, for better or for worse, kicked me into gear with that situation. And I started realizing, like, I couldn't even confidently tell you any hobby I had that he wasn't actively a part of. Um, and eventually he started talking about having babies. He told me that he was going to, he already knew how he was going to propose to me and who he was going to tell about it first. Um, I remember, because, we were like not financially well off. I was working my ass off pretty much all the time. I remember one time we went to the mall and he had disappeared. And he came back and he told me that he had spent the rest of his paycheck on something. And I obviously flipped out. And I told him, like, what were you thinking? Like, we have bills. What are you doing? And then he got mad at me and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go return it. I'm just going to go return it. Like, He was just like so angry about that reaction. Like, I was a fucking adult. He was older than me. He should have known better. Um, it was a promise ring. Um, and he definitely weaponized that guilt against me because instead of returning it or insisting he return it, I wore it. Anyway, I felt the need to share that before I continue on with what my life was like post breakup, which I think will be my own video because I think it might be longer.